Hello out there, and today at long last I am finally doing a Blade Show recap video, and this is actually the second one of these that I've done because I filmed this video once, I edited it, had it just about ready to post, and then in a fit of idiocy it got deleted from my phone, and so here we are recording again. And I'm really only doing this for about the 12 of you out there who really wanted to see this video, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. I know the show was almost 3 weeks back now, but there was a lot of really cool stuff that happened there. A lot of great people that I met. I had a heck of a time, like I said, meeting makers and meeting other YouTube creators and just talking with people in the community. And yeah, just every time I get to any kind of show or any kind of shop or any place where there are knife people around, I always have a great time, and Blade Show West was really no exception. Now you can see in front of you the knives and the things that I purchased and came home with, and we're gonna start the video with these things and then move on to some of the features and the other things that really jumped out at me from some of the other booths. All right, so I'll get into to everything, and yeah, if there's anything that I miss or anything that you have a question about, as always, let me know in the comments down below, or hit me up at jtsknifelife@gmail.com. All right, but coming into Blade Show West, I had a different perspective than I did at Blade Show in Atlanta. In Atlanta, I knew I wanted to get the Benchmade Saibu, but had a lot of extra money just to find other things by chance. But here at Blade Show West, I had more of a goal. I had some ideas of what I wanted to do with my money. I knew I was going to be getting the Benchmade mini freak scales. I wasn't expecting to get them for free, so I'm not sure if you caught the video about these, but that was just an excellent experience meeting the people from Rogue Blade Works. But I also did have my sights on 3 of the actually 5 knives that you see in front of you. I had a feeling I was going to get. So let's start with one of the big ones, one of the ones that a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is Civivi. So Civivi is Wee's budget brand, and they have just been doing some really good things. Lots of hype around this brand so far, and so I knew I wanted to get my hands on all their models, check them out, and see which one I would like. I really do like the packaging. The packaging is really classy and is really similar to the Wee knives of the past as well. And that's really what I saw with the knives. They are very well built. Looking at this knife right here, and this one is called the Backlash. Looking at this knife, man, it seems to just be as good as like the Wee Practic that I reviewed. Every aspect of this knife is just as good as the Practic, if not better, with the exception of the steel. And it's for a fraction of the price. And this is a 9CR level steel, so probably better than 8CR13 MOV, but not anything that is above a budget like kind of level. But still, just the look of the knife and the execution and the finishing, it's really solid. It's as good as everyone's saying that it is, that's for sure. And they did have some other really cool models as well, and I ended up settling on this one because it was just the one that called to me the most. There was one model that was like brand new that hadn't even been released yet, and that one was available. And then there was another one that hadn't been released yet that was already sold out before I even got there. So definitely doing some good things over at Civivi. Interested in seeing what direction they go in. They are using a bunch of different steels already as it is too. So very cool experience there. All right, and then the next knife that I knew I wanted to pick up was one from Artisan. So Artisan Cutlery. You might be aware that I had one of their knives somewhat recently, and it didn't go too well for me. So here's a picture of their packaging. So I ended up picking up this knife, and this one, if you take a look right here, it doesn't have a name. It is it's just the 1702 PS, and this one is in D2, has a nice G10 handle scale. Really reminiscent to me of a ZT-0450, which is a good thing, at a much cheaper price. I think this was like $60. And yeah, this knife is well built. and definitely more EDC friendly than that big Artisan I had on the channel a few weeks ago. Interesting thing about this model, a lot of people in the comments for that video were talking about how they really liked theirs and I should have gotten a G10 one and whatnot, and I actually got to handle the G10 one at the show, and yeah, the G10 for these like inlays here is grippy. So it actually completely changes the complexion of the knife if you were to get the G10 version versus the carbon fiber. So just very odd that you would have different inlays that would change the knife that much. But to Artisan's credit, they actually commented on that video, completely class acts when it comes to that. Yeah, very cool. And so definitely validated the idea that I wanted to get another one of their knives. So I'm really happy that I did that and visited that booth at the show. Now, moving on, there was one more company that I was targeting because I'd heard of them and had never really seen them as like a major player, but I'd seen some of their models and was interested in them, and that was Mode1. Mode1 Knives, they've been around for a while, but I haven't really seen that many like new models, at least lately. But there was always one that caught my eye, and it was this guy. Because this thing looks a whole lot like a Kershaw leak. And it was sort of the inspiration for the knife from talking with Mr. Boyer, who was there and was very cool. And yeah, had a really good conversation with him a couple times actually over the course of the 2 days that I was there. And yeah, if you were going to compare this to a Kershaw leak, there actually is a pretty interesting discussion. Because a lot of the things that people don't like about the leak, maybe assisted opening, the clip, not being deep carry, those sort of things are improved. G10 handle scale improved on this knife. We have bearings, we have a deep carry clip, G10 scale versus, what is customary on the leak. So yeah, you do take a hit when it comes to the steel, and it's not made in the USA, but yeah, pretty interesting comparison video on the way when it comes to this knife versus the leak. So happy with this 8CR13 MOV, 30 bucks, definitely worth checking out. So yeah, very cool there. And then the next knife that I picked up was just by chance because the booth happened to be next to the Mode1 booth, and that was Burnside Knives. Burnside Knives, couple of very cool people. The motto for the company, "Your knife says a lot about you." I couldn't agree more. And I had a great conversation with them as well. And one of the things about a show like Blade Show West or Blade Show or anywhere you go where you're meeting people is that, the people who are designing the knives, the guys in charge, they're right there in front of you for anybody to walk up to and ask questions to and just chat with. And so you really get a real connection. You get an understanding of who they are and what their process is and why they got into the business and where their love of knives came from. And it's just it's definitely the best part of the whole experience is just getting that feeling and being able to walk right up to the people who produce the product that you're interested in. And so Burnside Knives, the people there, they're a husband and wife team, and the wife does a whole lot of the marketing and the organization of the company, and the husband does the majority of the designing. And they're a team and they do some really good stuff. They don't have that many products out quite yet, but the ones that I saw were very interesting. And yeah, I ended up deciding on this knife right here. This is called the Carmen. It's named after their daughter. Typically not the kind of grind that I look for. This dual grind isn't usually my thing aesthetically, but the knife is just built really well, has D2. Big fan of this one. And yeah, just the conversation with them that I had just makes you want to, buy one of their products and invest in what they're doing. So very cool to be able to do that. Very interested to see how that small company grows. So information obviously right here if you're interested in them. All right, and then the last knife that I picked up at Blade Show was a steel will. Before we get to that, though, I was actually trying to get one large purchase. And the large purchase I was really thinking about was a Brian tie. This CRKT right here, this Tie Tac 2, is sort of a take on a Brian tie design called the Tie Fighter. and he has like a mid-tech version from Brian Ty and Friends that I was looking at, and they just didn't have the one that I wanted. I wanted one that basically looked like this and was a button lock and not an automatic. And you know, I'm not a big fan of Tantos, and the only ones that they had that weren't autos were Tantos. So I sort of had to pass on it, had to look for something else to get, and I went over to the Steel Will booth, and I came across this guy. And man, am I happy that I did. The Steel Will Mini Gecko. So this was one that had been on my list a long time ago. It just sort of got lost in the shuffle, and I never ended up getting around to getting one. And this knife is just super sweet. When I decided to get this, it was probably like the best decision that I made the entire weekend, because it is just, man, it is classy and it is well built and it just feels great in hand. And yeah, definitely a great knife and an example of Steel Will performing at their best. You know, so much now Steel Will is getting known for making these good budget knives in good materials, you know, D2 with like the cut jack and, you know, the modus and the intrigue and stuff. But this is the knife that I think about when I think about Steel Will, is, you know, the Italian made high quality stuff. And yeah, this one, the little brother to the full size Gecko, is just a great knife. You know, I've already called it the best lockback knife I've ever had. Not necessarily saying that the locking mechanism is stronger than any others, you know, like a Cold Steel, let's say, Jimmy Slash. but yeah, just probably the best lockback I've ever had. Just a great knife all around. So pretty stoked about picking this one up. Steel Will, though, also had some other good stuff going on. So I'm going to take a look at that real quick. So they did have a knife that I was looking at that's been released already, but I'd never really handled, and that's called the Resident. So pretty interesting looking one that I think I'm going to be picking up myself relatively soon. Not sure when, but yeah, it was a good looking knife. It felt great in hand. And they have a new one called the Piercer. And that knife, yeah, that one was in D2. There's going to be a couple different configurations, but that one should be coming out next year. That one definitely is one that I'm interested in as well. So yeah, so I had some really cool pickups, a really great experience with just shopping around and trying to decide what to get. But there were a lot of other things there, guys, a lot of other things. And there was one thing that I wanted to pick up and just wasn't able to, and that was from Kershaw, and that was the Kershaw Flythrough. And yeah, I ended up getting the stuff that I did, but the Kershaw Flythrough was a little bit of a bummer. It had just come out. It was you know, a new knife that week. It had been released, and you know, I went to the Kershaw booth, and they had the ZTs there. They had the 407, and they had you know, they had the Flythrough that they were showing off, but they weren't selling it, which was, I don't know, a bit of a disappointment. And then I went over to some of the other booths, the distributors, and none of them had it either. And it just seemed like a missed opportunity. You know, that you release a knife, it's online for sale the week of the show, and then nobody there has it at the show. You know, I hadn't ordered one, and I still haven't ordered one because I was planning on getting one there, and it didn't happen. And yeah, that was sort of a bummer when it comes to Kershaw, and sort of, if there was one knock on the whole event, it was that it just seemed that some of like the big companies didn't really take it that seriously. As odd as that is to say, you know, it just didn't seem like there was 100% investment when it comes to like, hey, bringing new products or doing something exciting, you know. And in Kershaw, you know, they had the 470, which was just released, so a lot of people were checking that out. And they did have the Flythrough, but you'd think they'd have them for sale, you know, try to capitalize on that a little bit, and they didn't. So yeah, you know, I already did a small post video about the Natrix and the bare knuckle, which will be coming soon. So there's that. There was a little bit of an update there, but for the most part, Kershaw didn't do much, and neither did Spyderco. Spyderco had very little to do that was new. I think in the 2 days that I was there, I spent 5 minutes at the booth total. The only thing I did at Spyderco was I handled a Spidey Chef for the first time, which was awesome. Spidey Chef was awesome. It was a great knife. yeah, really cool and happy to be able to do that. But otherwise, they didn't really have anything new. They had the Mantra 3, which had just been released, and that was there. And there was another like relatively new knife, but none of the you know, the new prototypes or anything were there to check out. So it was like, okay, well, there you go. And you know, no Eric Lesser. There were a couple people there, but nothing great. So nothing really stand out when it comes to that. All right, getting back to other things that did stand out, though, one thing that jumped out at me was a company called Wesson. All right, Wesson Knife and Tool, or Wesson Goods, excuse me, from Detroit. I don't have a picture of any other stuff because the main reason is that they had one knife that is like a prototype and is going to be announced soon. And the owner of the company, Mr. Chester, I guess, the guy who I was talking to, he politely suggested that I not post, or anyone post for that matter, pictures of that knife because he wanted to be the one to announce it and didn't want anything to leak out. So in respect to him, I'm not going to do that, but it is a knife that I am 100% interested in. If you're familiar with their stuff, it is a little bit larger than some of the stuff that they've had out there, and is certainly one that will resonate with a lot of people because of the shape of it and yeah, just the overall design. So cool people, definitely worth checking out. All right, moving on, let's talk about Benchmade. So and let's just bring a couple knives out to fiddle with while we do that, because blank screens are not fun. So Benchmade, as you might know, I did do a video about the Puko, and that worked out pretty well. You know, that is now available, so you can check that one out if you want to. But yeah, Benchmade, the guys there were really cool. I was able to hang out with my buddy Zach from Zach Stuff, and yeah, good experience all across the board there. They did have one really sweet thing, a slip joint propper. And the gold class version, which we've probably seen already by now, that one had a concept version. And the concept propper, there are two of them, and I have a video of one of them right here. But the concept propper is something that they're going to be doing basically with all gold classes moving forward, is that whenever they decide to do a gold class, they come up with a couple different designs, and you know, they have to choose one to put into production. And in the case of the propper, the two concepts that they had that they made like prototypes of and didn't get chosen, they had those on display, which was just really awesome, really cool to see those designs and see what didn't get chosen. But they are going to be doing things with those knives in the future in terms of like either selling them or auction. So really neat to see where that goes moving forward. All right. One other thing I wanted to talk about was Chris Reeve. So I wanted to make a video, a dedicated video for Patty from Patty's Potato Peelers about all the slip joints of Blade Show West. You know, because he asked me about that. And the slip joints, when it comes to those, you know, I did see that proper. But also, you know, the coolest thing was the new Impinda from Chris Reeve. So the one that you see right here, it doesn't have a scale on it yet. It's not quite finished, and it is about to be and should be released soon. Pretty sweet looking knife though. Feels great in the hand. Nice retention too for the slip joint. So overall, a pretty cool little knife there. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about. One last company was Hogue. So Hogue, they were really cool. All right, they were giving out free mats. I'll always take a free mat. So yeah, they were pretty neat. But the thing that was interesting about them, the thing that really drew me to their booth, was the HK line. So Hogue now has the HK line that Benchmade used to have, and they released a series of knives called the Exemplar that has a axis lock. They're calling it a pivot lock, but it is essentially an axis lock. And that knife, you know, in a number of different configurations, that knife is good. It's good. It is well built. My buddy Drew picked one up. I got to handle one. It is nice. And they're putting that same pivot lock into a KnifeWorks exclusive Doug Ritter. Essentially, I mean, it looks like a Griptilian kind of knife. So they're doing some big things. And, you know, now that that patent for the axis lock is gone. Really interested to see how it continues to evolve. And I'll tell you guys 100%, I'll bring this back real quick, 100% from what I felt, the pivot lock on the Hogue was leaps and bounds better than the Mass Drop Perpetua, like much better. So just really good quality stuff there. All right. Otherwise, guys, yeah, the whole event was just a great time. Like I said, I wish that some of the major companies would have just been bigger players. You know, CRKT was the same way. They had a lot of their stuff there, but it wasn't anything really new. Everyone was cool. All the people were really friendly, and every one of you who I met, that was fantastic. I mean, there were a lot more people that I met and got to be introduced to, or you got to bump into just over the course of the 2 days. A lot more people in Washington, or in Oregon, excuse me, than in Atlanta, just funny enough. So yeah, the people were probably the best part, but overall it's just a good time. Looking forward to see how this event grows, because I think that it's going to just catch on, and hopefully we'll get to see a lot better investment from some of the major companies in the future. But again, I did have an excellent time as it was, so no real worries there. Any other specific questions about anything, guys? Any comments, complaints, suggestions, you know where to reach me. But thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it. Take care and have a good one.